that tells you that it's at least accomplishing something. What good on a hot day is the shadow of a vulture flying over your head?
Don't look up.
It's doing you no good, is it? It does nothing. So basically, there is nothing that we do.
It might be waiting on you.
Yeah. That tells you to get up off your butt, because the thing is that it's an awareness that we've got to create. The thing is that time, we have to have an awareness of what our time is. Because why? Once we have an awareness of what our time is, then what can we do? We can learn how to use our time. If time is the most important thing to us, but yet I just started with this whole thing of telling you how unimportant, how unvaluable it is, because again, it's a transitory shade. It's just a shade that passes. So our concept of time in the grand scheme of things and our time here means nothing, especially if we're doing it for us. But we've got to learn to put a value upon our time. Think about this thing. If you're not being challenged, if you're not being stimulated to grow, then what are you wasting your time for? I have a rule that I generally try to live by. If this person, God bless you, if this person adds no value to my life, if I do not like this person, if I do not enjoy this person, I won't have a meal with them. Why? Why? Why would I waste my time? Why would anybody waste their time? Because we got so little left. Dory, I'm looking at things now and thinking about buying boots that are going to be my last pair of boots. I'm serious, because that's where I'm planning. I'm planning on boots that will last me for the rest of my life. Because in 10 years, I will be 73 years old. The boats won't really matter that much. They'll be winding down. They will not be working in them. So I'm looking at time span of boots now, where when I was a young man, I didn't think about this thing. I just rolled with it. Now I'm looking at winding my time down. I'm looking at how do I want to spend my time. Time is a thing that we have to look at. But again, if the Jews had a different measure of time, and we're going to talk about the Jewish concept of time, we have to understand this thing. He says that man, his days are like a shadow. What can we learn? Because remember, what can we learn about the responsibility of time? Is it possible that we can learn something about the responsibility of time to change the concept of our time being invaluable or unvaluable to time being valuable? Now, when we create an idea, oh man, our time is just, I look back now, that's what we was talking about. I look back now, and we was talking about it, and I told her Amber last night was coming back from flea market. What's so funny, Dory, you'll appreciate this, is we was sitting in this flea market, and we had, I don't know, the last room, like 3 rooms together to go through. And that's where the good stuff was. I can tell you, that's where the good stuff was. And when we walked into the room, you know what they said? Attention, shoppers. Please bring your stuff forward. And I'm thinking, man, we're finally in the good room. And now we don't have time. We have to go through everything else to get to this one good room. And I started laughing, Emily. You know what I said? Well, we've shut down another one. We've done shut down another flea market. And we spent all day in flea markets. And Amber, how many flea markets did we go through? 3. All day.
Well, that's a lot.
That's a whole lot. And we covered every square inch. But the thing is that I'm thinking, okay. So I say, Amber,
No, you didn't.
we're running out of time, so you need to look for the things that you're looking for. And so the thing is that how can we learn from this word to sell? How can we learn from it? To sell is from the root to solid. It means to grow dim, to be a shadow, as in hovering over. Grow dim. Tasala means that we know that our time is running out. Our time in the shade. If we can take this as a lesson, let's start here. This word right here, the letter right here, is tasade. I like tasade. It is a thing that represents basically all of us old people. It is represented by 90. When you're 90 years old, what really can you do anymore?
Fall and break stuff.
When you're 90 years old, you know what you spend the most of your time doing?
Looking for your medicine. Stroking out.
Waiting.
Yeah.
You're waiting.
Waiting for the next.
You're waiting. The thing is that something else, if you see this, it's not that hard to visualize a person that is on their knees with their hands up in prayer, pleading for something. It represents your pleading. It represents that you are in this place, that you are a righteous person, that you've grown. Amber and I was talking about this last night. I told Bailey years ago, I said, Bailey, don't be like me. Don't be like me. Don't become an old person living with your regrets. Change now. That way, when you're older, we were sitting last night and we was talking about how basically, and I told her, like, I started this morning on, I said, I don't want to get melancholy, but I think now about mom and daddy and how I took it for granted and I did not appreciate them. I did not value them. You know, it's like, and I'm reflected in it now with my grandchildren. You know, I was so excited about giving Axton. Yesterday was Axton Day. And so I walked out to talk to Axton. And as I'm talking to Axton, he doesn't respond. And as I walk by, he don't respond. And he finally says, oh, well, Papa, I was on video. You know, what's more important? The fact that, you know, somebody who just bought you the gift, that you can't even pause the video long enough to hear what they're talking to you about. And so guess what I do? I just walk off because that moment is now gone. I can't be mad at him because I did the same thing my mom and daddy. I can't remember how many days because, again, I lived with this illusion that I was going to live forever, that I would have plenty of time. I would do anything now to go back and make up for this lost time. I would do anything. But see, there's this transitory shift because, again, I did not value it when I had it, but now that it's gone, it's above value. I would do anything for this thing. And I plead, but it's not just for me, it's the fact that now, I was telling Amber yesterday, I said the hardest thing, and I'm learning how to do it, is forgive me from them. Because there's no one else around that can forgive me for the things that I did to my parents. Does that make sense? They're gone. My sisters are still here, but what I did to my parents and how the kid that I was to my parents is not their right to condemn me. It's not their right to persecute me, to judge me, to do all these things and to talk about. It's not their right because it didn't happen to them. Does that make sense? It happened to my parents, and I was this way to my parents and the people that were valuable to me. But now they're gone. I torture myself because of these things. I torture myself. But the thing is that I find myself on my knees, which is what this letter means. It's this person that's got on their knees and they realize that their time is running out and they realize the mistakes. That is the definition of a righteous person. That they realize, Dory, their mistakes. That they're now aware of their mistakes. When you're young, you're not aware of your mistakes. You're not aware of the value of your mistakes. You're not aware of the cost of your mistakes, David. Does that make sense? You're not aware of the consequences of what you've done. Trust me. One day, a you will be aware of these things. The thing is that it becomes this right here. This is called the shepherd's hook. This is lamed. Lamed is this shepherd's staff. And the thing is that if you notice it, it looks like this. Huh? Well, I'm going to give you a better example for this thing. Why the shepherd's staff was hooked. It was hooked for a very specific reason. It had a hook on it. Think about the terrain, and I love Zeke's analogy that God never spoke to anybody in snow and ice. He said it's always in the desert, warm and stuff like that. He said man was not meant to endure snow and ice. He said because God wasn't there.
There's a lot of truth to that.
He says they were in deserts. They were in a desert. If you go in deserts, what do they have in deserts? Ravines. When it does rain, water runs through. It runs through so fast that it cuts out grooves and channels in the desert. The ground breaks apart. Breaks apart, goes through there, and it erodes. It creates these big old things. Carrie, all of a sudden, here's this dumb sheep. And if I drew a sheep, y'all would laugh at me. So I'm going to draw a sheep anyway because I don't care. It's going to look stupid. So here's this sheep. It's sitting out there, and this is just like us. We're always sitting out here, and all of a sudden we find ourselves at the bottom, and we're looking down going, what? How did this happen? And we're going to walk, and we're going to lay in the bottom of this thing for how long until we decide what? That we're going to change our perspective. So now, we're this Tasade, when we look up and we start putting our hands up, we say, hey, get me out of this mess. Get me out of this mess. So all of a sudden, here comes the shepherd. He's got this lamed, David. He goes up there and he reaches around your neck or under your arms or wherever he has to, and that's how he grabs you and pulls you out of this thing. But the problem is that if you keep falling in this hole, you keep falling in this rut, do you know what you are established as? A fool. And do you know what they do with fools? It has to do with a cow. The best analogy is a steer. All right. If a steer possesses good genetics, he's not a steer, he is a bull, because he is passing down the good genetics. If this steer, this bull, will not yield and become something, because there's nothing worse than having a bull that every time you're around it tears up everything. And so the thing is that to calm that bull down and will not yield, it nips it. And so you have two different classifications of steers. You have the steers that they develop into meat. But then you got the bony steers. Do you think they just killed the bony steers? I remember as a young person, Amber and I had this bright idea. We was going to buy some calves. And so we could buy the calves cheap up there by the dairy farms. The Holstein calves. That sounds great. But have you ever looked at a Holstein calf? It don't look that different. But have you ever looked at a Holstein cow? What does a Holstein cow, huh?
The tits and udders.
Yes, bones.
They're bony.
It's a bone.
They're not meaty.
Yeah, girl.
They're not like a heifer or anything like that. They're not grown for meat. They're grown for what? So then why in the world would a foolish person buy one of these cows to grow it for meat, but yet we didn't look long term to go, well, look a second, wait a second. How come ours turned looking, what's that? Ours looks just like that. It's kind of like me and David. You know, I remember one time that David had grew all these plants and had nurtured them. And one day I got looking at these plants because in how I learned this lesson, Dory, I'm like, I had these dahlias and boy, that's growing big and pretty. And I was like, these two dahlias are different. And I got one, and all of a sudden I'm like, wait a second. This ain't a dahlia. This is poke salad. My dahlia became poke salad. What do you think happened to that dahlia plant that became poke salad? It got gone. I didn't want that in there. So the thing is that these cows that do not possess the good genetics of being a good, if they're not going to be a bull, maybe they'll be a good stocky. But if they're going to be skinny, they didn't kill them. They had uses for them. These uses for them is that they also had grinders. And so these cows that wasn't going to do anything, or this bull that wouldn't yield, they would put him on this grinder, and they'd walk him in circles. And if that bull did not yield to that thing, wouldn't even do that, then they would kill it. And what little use they could get out of it, they'd get out of it. They'd kill that sucker because he's not worth feeding. This person that's continually falling in this through the regrets of time, that's falling in there, that's not learning the lessons, his time is pretty much useless. He's not accomplishing anything. His life is going to be what? His time was what? A waste. Time that becomes valuable is you learn the lesson of Lamad.